Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Thursday. Welcome to KIPP Academy and welcome to our official public hearing on the Kingsbridge Armory ULURP. I am your Bronx Borough President, Vanessa L. Gibson, and I thank you all for joining us this evening. First, I do apologize that I am not able to join all of you in person, but certainly my hardworking, dedicated staff at Borough Hall is there this evening to facilitate tonight's hearing and ensure that it is productive and as smooth as possible. So I thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you for being a part of such an important conversation as we work together to reimagine the Kingsbridge Armory. This evening, we are here to discuss the proposed ULURP actions for the redevelopment of the historic Kingsbridge Armory, a project that has the true potential to transform not just a landmark building, but for the future of the Northwest Bronx as both a local and regional destination. Representatives from the applicant team are there this evening to present their blueprint and their vision for the adaptive reuse of the Armory, which includes a mixed-use campus featuring community space, recreation, light manufacturing, entertainment, a 17,000-seat event space, and up to 500 units of affordable housing. This plan also includes the creation of over 600 permanent and union jobs, workforce training, and a long-term commitment to community investment and public access. This is truly a significant proposal, ladies and gentlemen, not only because of its scale, but because of what the Armory has truly meant to our borough. For years, decades, the Kingsbridge Armory has symbolized both promise, potential, and yet disappointment. It is our job right now to ensure that this next chapter truly fulfills the community's vision, our blueprint, advances equity, and delivers real, lasting benefits for our residents and families and our businesses. That means evaluating this proposal holistically. Yes, it's about job creation, job growth, lowering our unemployment rate, economic development, building generational wealth. It's about affordability, open space, investments in our infrastructure, public safety, energy efficiency, sustainability, and long-term community ownership. As your Bronx Borough President, I am deeply committed and determined to ensure that any development on this site meets the needs of our local community and truly honors the collective efforts of local residents and all of you stakeholders who have fought the good fight for a community-first approach. To emphasize my commitment, I have put my own resources into this proposal. As your borough president, you know I don't just talk the talk, but we walk the walk, and we show up for our borough. So to date, we have allocated $3 million in our capital budget. We've been a part of the working groups, public events, visioning sessions, and we are proud to support the Together for Kingsbridge plan, which was 9 months plus of community engagement that began in my first year in 2022 and has led us to where we are today. As I conclude, let me acknowledge the entire team of the Together for Kingsbridge working group, the entire coalition, the family, led by our co-chairs, Councilmember Pierina Sanchez, and the executive director of the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition, Sandra Lobo, and the entire team at Northwest Bronx. All of our local officials who have worked together with New York City EDC, the Economic Development Corporation. Thank you for your partnership. Each of my elected officials and EDC have dedicated time, effort, staff, resources to collectively support reimagining the Kingsbridge Armory. Thank you to our elected officials, to Congressman Adriano Espaillat. Thank you for your support. To our state senators, Gustavo Rivera and Senator Robert Jackson. Thank you for your support from the state. To Assembly members George Alvarez and Assembly member Yudelta Tapia. Thank you for your support from the state, as well as City Council Speaker Adrian Adams and our District 14 Council member and co-chair Councilmember Pierina Sanchez. Together, we have invested millions of dollars to reimagine the Kingsbridge Armory because we mean business. I want to acknowledge all of our partners who were there. Thank you to the development team and the applicant team, 8th Regiment partners, to Jorge Madruga and the entire team. Thank you for listening, for being a part of this engagement and this process, and really making sure that we have all been a part of these discussions. To all of our advocates and educational institutions like Monroe University, as well as our CUNY colleges, thank you so much. To our healthcare partners and all of our educators and parent leaders and advocates and housing organizations and CBOs and so many of our credible messengers and trusted partners, we thank you, thank you, thank you. To all of our unions who have been a part of this process, especially recognizing Local 79, the Laborers Union, as well as La Una and Mason Tenders. We see you and we thank you so much for your support. This public hearing tonight is really an opportunity for all of you to be heard, to continue to further your commitment and your priorities of what matters and what you ultimately want the Kingsbridge Armory to include. So I look forward to tonight's public hearing. I also want to acknowledge my team. First, let me acknowledge our young people, my summer youth interns, and all of the young people that are working with us this summer, many of whom are in different units in our office. We thank you so much to all of our young people. I want to acknowledge my planning and development team, led by Jatan Hortzman, our director, our deputy director, Kimberly McNabb, the entire planning division. Thank you to Jaden Vasquez, to Sam Goodman, to Max Spiegel, to Dan Donovan. Thank you to our general counsel, Rob Maraglia. Thank you to my IT team who make sure that my video can be presented tonight, and everyone at KIPP Academy. I thank you to all the elected officials and representatives who are there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We look forward to tonight's hearing, and let's continue to work together and build together and partner together as we truly reimagine the Kingsbridge Armory. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get this hearing started.
Yes, and thank you, Borough President. And just so you're all aware, the Borough President is not here tonight, but she is listening in via the cameras. So before we begin, I would also like to take a moment to appreciate the space in which we're now sitting. Thank you to KIPP Academy, Principal John Carter, Ivana Jimenez, and the event staff, and everyone at the KIPP team who has been instrumental in helping to host this event and this public hearing tonight. I'll now go over the run of show and set the ground rules for the public hearing. For the public hearing, the applicant will make an initial presentation. Any elected officials or the representatives that are present may offer testimony. Testimony from the general public will then begin with a 2-minute time limit, which will be enforced. The applicant team will not respond to questions after individual speakers. To speak, you'll need to fill out a speaker card available at the sign-in table up front. Speakers may only speak once. We ask that there are no interruptions from the audience during the public testimony and each person's opinions are respected. We'll ask people to leave if they are disruptive during the public hearing. After the public testimony, the Borough President's team will then ask questions to the applicant team, time permitting. This is a public hearing that is being recorded. For any written testimony, please submit it to public testimony, one word, at bronxboropres.nyc.gov. It's also on the slide up top. Written testimony will always be accepted, but only testimony received by tomorrow, July 18th, will be considered for the Borough President's recommendation. Again, as noted, translation services are available. Please ask a staff member for assistance if you need. And we ask that any speakers today do speak a little slower. I did say 2 minutes. We'll extend a little bit if you're speaking slow for the translation services. We'll now hand it over to Sam Goodman, who will go over the docket and will be keeping time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam Goodman, and I am the ULIP coordinator for Bronx Borough President Vanessa L. Gibson, and I'm at this time going to read the docket descriptions concerning the matters we're going to be reviewing this evening. Application number C250292ZSX, special permit. In the matter of an application submitted by the New York City Economic Development Corporation and the 8 Regimen Partners, LLC, pursuant to Sections 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter, for the grant of a special permit pursuant to Section 74-182B of the zoning resolution to allow an indoor arena with a maximum seating capacity of 17,000 persons within 200 feet of a residence district, and in conjunction therewith to modify the sign regulations of Sections 123-40 and 32-60 in connection with a proposed mixed-use development on property located at 25 West Kingsbridge Road, Block 3247, lots 2 and 10, in a M1-4A R7-2 district within a special mixed-use district MX-30. Application number C250293 PPX disposition in the matter of an application submitted by the Department of Citywide Administrative Services pursuant to Section 197C of the New York City Charter for the disposition of city-owned property, Block 3247, lots 2 and 10, pursuant to zoning. Application number C250294, ZMX, zoning map amendment in the matter of an application submitted by the New York City Economic Development Corporation and 8th Regiment Partners, LLC, pursuant to Section 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter for an amendment of the zoning map, section number 3C, 1, changing from a C4 district to an M1-4A R7-2 district, property bounded by West 195th Street, Jerome Avenue, West Kingsbridge Road, and Reservoir Avenue, and 2, establishing a special mixed-use district, MX-30, bounded by West 195th Street, Jerome Avenue, West Kingsbridge Road, and Reservoir Avenue. Finally, application 250295ZSX, special permit in the matter of an application submitted by New York City Economic Development Corporation and 8th Regiment Partners, LLC, pursuant to Sections 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter for the grant of a special permit pursuant to Section 74-195 of the zoning resolution to allow a public parking garage with a maximum capacity of 248 spaces in connection with a proposed mixed-use development on property located at 25 West Kingsbridge Road, Block 3247, lots 2 and 10, in an M1-4A R7-2 district within a special mixed-use MX-30 district, along with the related application N250296 ZRX for a zoning text amendment. All actions are in the Borough of the Bronx, Community District 7. The full application can be accessed from the zoning application portal. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Great. So we will now turn it over to the applicant team. Gio, if you can put up the presentation. You guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves while that's going up. Looks like we're ready.
Okay, hello folks. My name is Madison Hernandez. I'm with the New York City Economic Development Corporation.
Hi, I'm Michael Syracuse, partner with FX Collaborative Architects.
Nora Martins from Ackerman LLP, Land Use Counsel for the project.
And Lauren George with C&B Consulting, representing Mad Equities.
Sandra Lobo, Executive Director at the Northwest Bronx Community Clergy Coalition, Development Partner.
Hello, everyone. Thank you once again so much to the Borough President's Office for hosting us this evening, for KIPP, for our translators as well, and for everybody coming out on a very hot day. I very much appreciate it. Just to kick us off, make sure this clicker works. Okay, as mentioned, we have a couple of teams here with us today. As I mentioned, my name is Madison Hernandez. I'm with the New York City Economic Development Corporation. We also have our 8th Regiment team here, FX Collaborative, our design team, Off-Gang, Ackerman, C&V Consulting, and Northwest Bronx. Uh-oh. All right, this clicker will be a little funny. Yeah, if you could click for me, that would be great. Okay, so we're going to explore starting with a little bit about the project vision. Yeah. Okay, just to start off with a little bit of history and ground us what happened with this project before we made it to this moment today. As many folks in this room are probably familiar, we've had 2 previous attempts at re-envisioning the Kingsbridge Armory, first starting in 2006 where EDC released an RFP to redevelop the Armory into a mixed-use facility. And so this was done by the related companies who were selected, who were the awardee of this RFP to convert the Armory into a retail complex. And so this was going to include a movie theater, a fitness center, a supermarket, but ultimately failed the ULURP process and was rejected by the City Council in 2009. And then in 2012, a new plan was proposed to create the world's largest indoor ice facility. And despite receiving approvals through the ULURP process, NIC failed to secure the necessary financing within the required time frame, which ended up in a failed project. Just waiting on the clicker. Next slide. Okay, amazing. Now we're on to the next slide. And to talk a little bit about the visioning process here for how we made it to this moment today. And as I've said in previous meetings and to those who've been here previously, this process has really been rooted in this community vision and developed by many of the folks in this room over a 9-month engagement process where we communicated, conversed, and spoke with over 4,000 residents, students, workers, and business owners. And so we held, as you see here, if you're able to see it, we held 4 public workshops with over 1,000 participants. We had a survey with over 900 responses. We had over 500 community members tour the Armory, 9 community board meetings, 6 small group discussions, 3 public information sessions, and feedback from over 75 industry stakeholders. And so, unlike past efforts, as I just mentioned, the Together for Kingsbridge vision was shaped directly by the community members who live within Kingsbridge and work within Kingsbridge to really develop a blueprint for how we made it to this moment today. And so, many thanks and gratitude to the folks who have participated and continue to throughout this ULURP process. We can go to the next slide, please. Okay, amazing. And so a lot of the questions that we receive as we have gone through this process is, how is this different from before? Having gone through 2 previous attempts, there is a necessary skepticism as we move through it that has really shaped this process. And so for folks who can't read the PowerPoint presentation, it differs in 3 major ways. One, through the programming. The previous attempt only had 3 primary uses. So that was the ice rink, retail, and some community space. And so it was heavily dependent on the ice rink for revenue and cash flow. But today we have multiple uses and varied programming within several commercial revenue generating uses, and we have plenty of letters of interest for the Armory space already, even though we're very early on in the process. Another key point of difference is the financing. And so in the previous attempt, there was $138 million in state loan financing, which is key, the loan part of that. And so there was a failure to obtain sufficient capital and control project costs. But what's very different today is that we have $200 million plus of city and state grants, not loans. And we have established lender relationships with Wells Fargo, Valley National Bank, Citibank, Webster Bank, and the 8th Regiment partners have the capacity to fund majority of the equity portion of this capital stack. And then ultimately, and many thanks to the team we have at the table, is our developing team is much different than the previous attempt. And so the 8th Regiment team brings over 20 years of experience of delivering projects, particularly within the Bronx. And in the last 5 years alone, principals have delivered over 2 million square feet of commercial space and over $1 billion in third-party debt and equity financing raised by the development team. So we're talking about really key differences that will really shape the next steps of this process and make this a completely different project. And so I'm going to kick it over to my colleague Nora for the next steps.
Thanks, Madison. So I think everything that Madison just said really lays the background and the framework for how our development team, together with EDC and with Northwest Bronx, has approached this development. And you can see on the screen, there's a few bullet points that really summarize how we approached it. First and foremost, uses that reflect the Together for Kingsbridge plan, the concept of really opening the Armory to the Bronx, to the surrounding community, and to the entire Bronx, creating an engine of employment and economic opportunity, the critical historic preservation and stewardship of this invaluable public asset, union labor participation. The Armory will be developed with a project labor agreement in place. The concept of complementary investment, not displacement. And fundamentally, this mixed-use approach to the development, which includes commercial, industrial, community facility, and affordable housing. A quick snapshot of the program, which Michael will get into in more detail as he goes through the design. The Armory building will be rehabilitated and repurposed to house multiple uses, including a live events venue, entertainment arcade, music museum, cultural center, various community facility spaces, commercial offices, retail, light manufacturing incubator space, as well as parking and loading. And the residential building component will contain up to 500 units of affordable housing, ground floor retail, as well as additional parking. The next slide shows you prospective tenants. As Madison mentioned, we have been working hard to secure letters of interest from prospective tenants. Again, it is early in the process, but we're really excited at the interest and at what we've come up with so far, including various nonprofit organizations, including the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center and Dominicanos USA, community-oriented recreational and educational institutions, including Asphalt Green and Lehman College, and diversified commercial and industrial tenants, Live Nation, RPM, and SBS, the Spanish Broadcasting Systems. In order to facilitate this complex development program, we require several land use actions, which Sam read out for you before, and I'll just go through quickly, including the disposition of the land. It's owned by the city, so entering into a ground lease requires a disposition, a zoning map amendment to rezone the development site from C44 to a mixed-use zoning district, an M14, with an R72 residential component. That's mainly to facilitate the range of uses that we have. It actually has the same overall floor area permitted as the existing zoning does, but it allows a much greater range of uses, including the manufacturing use. Several zoning text amendments to establish the proposed mixed-use district, and also to the existing arena special permit to increase the maximum capacity from 6,000 to 17,000 to make this a viable arena use, and to amend some permitted modifications of signage, parking, and loading for this arena. Two other special permits, one to allow an indoor, so we're modifying the special permit text and then seeking a special permit to allow the arena and modify signage requirements, and a special permit to allow a public parking garage with a capacity of greater than 150 spaces. Lastly, not subject to the ULURP process, but also critical for this project's success, is Landmarks Preservation and Public Design Commission review, which we are pursuing concurrently. Now I'll turn it over to Michael to discuss the design.
Great. Thank you again, Michael Syracuse, partner with FX Collaborative Architects. Great to see so many people here and engaged in this process. So talking about the design, we'll go to the next slide, please. It begins with a set of guiding principles by which we are committing to on this project, including building on the work of the Together for Kingsbridge plan, making the Armory accessible to as many people as possible, creating jobs, preserving history, bringing on union labor, and bringing on complementary investment into the community through a variety of uses and affordable housing. So what does this all start to look like? Well, we're really excited to share how we're activating the historic structure, but before we go inside, we'll start with everything that we're designing outside and around the Armory with our partners at Scape Studio, our landscape architects. So next slide, please. All of the open spaces will connect to and engage with the neighborhood around the site. It's a really large site, so there's a lot of different parts doing a lot of different things. One example will be along Jerome and 195th Street, where we're expanding the sidewalk to make it safer for pedestrians. But this is all within a comprehensive open space plan. Next, please. Along Reservoir Avenue, we're creating a play plaza for kids who might come over after school, and we're preserving those beautiful mature trees to create the Kingsbridge LA, where you can sit in the shade of those trees that are already there, which we're also going to be layering with additional trees and shrubs and seating. Next, please. Along the Kingsbridge corridor, you might be familiar with that odd asphalt triangle that sticks into the street. We're proposing to capture that space to create a big open plaza with benches, steps. Next, please. Things like seating, movable furniture, a new canopy structure where you might set up a pop-up market or just hang out, or there might be a merch table for the concert that's happening inside. Next, please. Thanks. Here's a section through that plaza. The idea is simply that this is becoming a flexible outdoor space that the community can use and enjoy in many different ways that are intentionally different from the other open space and parks in the neighborhood. Next, please. All in all, we're talking about almost an acre and a half of new, active, flexible, open public space right here in the Kingsbridge neighborhood, and that's just the outside. There's also all the stuff that we're going to be doing inside of the building, which includes putting together an amazing program, including the live events venue with capable of hosting concerts big enough for 17,000 attendees, entertainment and recreation spaces, music recording studios and cultural spaces, dedicated community spaces, spaces for light manufacturing and tech. So that's a lot. How do we fill this up into the existing building? Because this is what the Armory looks like now. And in the end of the day, no matter what we do here, no matter what we design, the best thing about this project is what's already there, this amazing space, this historic structure. So we started designing all those programs that I just mentioned, but we realized that above all, we have two really important jobs here. One is not to mess this up, and two, to make sure that it is accessible to as many people as possible, as often as possible. But that's it, do no harm. So next, please. So in concept, that's what we're doing. We're making a little bit more open, a little bit more soft. So as a metaphor, as a concept, we're just bringing in some sky and we're opening up and putting down a carpet. Next, please. Back one, please. Thank you. So it's a tapestry that softens the space by weaving together all these different uses and communities and ideas, which is, of course, how tapestries are made. Next, please. You pull together different bits and pieces from different places and different things that you have, and you make something new. So we're proposing the Kingsbridge tapestry. Next, please. It's a tapestry that extends out to make the community more sustainable by creating a resiliency hub and reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. It's by connecting the ecological corridor of Aqueduct Walk by managing stormwater. And it's by preserving the trees and enhancing biodiversity. Next. And it's a tapestry that extends inside through this super diverse program that we're proposing, whether it's concerts or after-school athletics or culture. Next. And so you see here the tapestry in red. It's structurally inserted into the Armory drill hall. It's floating inside, and it's bringing all those things together and all those different uses together. Next. So now I'll take you through a set of plans, starting at the very top of the building and working our way down. So this is the top floor, where we will have balcony spaces that look out through the big arched windows on the ends of the drill hall and look down into garden cafes and the community steps that lead you down to the venue level. This level has the pre-function spaces on the east and the west, and it has spaces for the cultural centers and community groups in the head house. But most obviously, it has this amazing 60,000 square foot column-free flexible space in the middle. So I said we had two jobs: not to mess this up and to make it accessible to as many people as possible. So you can see here we're preserving the amazing expanse of this space, which is completely unique in this city. And it's super flexible. So what, they're a teenager who needs a place to hang out after school, maybe this is where you have practice next. Or maybe it's where you see your favorite artist who's on tour, because Kingsbridge Armory is now the premier events venue for anyone who wants to perform in New York City. Or maybe it's where the next generation of the Bronx flea market sets up, rain or shine, or high school graduation or university convocation happens. All of these things can happen in this space. Next, please. And now here we're the level below that venue, which is essentially street level. Again, the head house would be dedicated to community groups, which will be accessed through the historic entrance. And then the drill hall space, next please, will become a public concourse activated with food and drinks, retail, entertainment, and culture. This is where you would come directly off of the street. You'd have these entrances at the corners of the building, and you could come up directly to the venue level, or you could continue into the concourse level. Next. So here you see the concourse level where you can look up and see the tapestry above, where you can experience the historic armory arches looking up. It's also where you can grab a drink or a bite to eat, much as you would find in food halls across the city. Next, please. And alongside these spaces, anchoring the historic head house, are dedicated space for Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition, Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, and Dominicanos USA. Next, please. Below that, there's two more levels. Because the sidewalk slopes down to Jerome, we'll have public entrances to the concourse at the eastern corners of the level below. And we'll be activating Jerome Avenue with new entrances and storefronts. Next, please. Thank you. And finally, the level below that, which will include new parking and general building load. So these lower levels will have additional program, next please, which includes entertainment spaces, things like go-karts, arcades, bowling, esports, and laser tag. And next please, a large new hub for light manufacturing for Bronx-based makers, artisans, entrepreneurs, and innovators. So getting people in and out of the armory is especially important, so we've analyzed access for both people and vehicles on event days and non-event days. Notably, all truck loading will be completely off of the street, either on a loading dock accessed from Reservoir Avenue or through the lower level. Next. So moving on to the residential building to the north of the armory along 195th Street, there exist non-historic National Guard buildings that will be demolished. Next, please. So it's important that what we're doing relates to the landmark of the armory. So we started by extruding the site up and then carving the corners to reveal views to the historic armory. Then we're opening up the middle to access the armory from the north, and then stepping it back to give it scale. Next. The building is scaled to relate to the armory itself and to the taller academic buildings to the north. Next. It will be clad in brick to relate to the historic armory. Next. And here we're ending with a mid-block view to the entrance to the armory. Next. So there's a lot of design work that's happening now and that will continue to happen. But at the end of the day, what's really important here, it isn't about the aesthetics and what it looks like, but it's about the positive impact for Bronxites. It's about opening the building up to provide a wealth of resources to the community. Next. Regarding the residential building, it will contain approximately 500 units at a range of unit sizes, provided for a range of income levels, in accommodating a range of living arrangements. And all of this is meeting HPD requirements under the ELA program. Next. The project will provide provide housing for everyone, whether you work in food service, whether you're a teacher, whether you work in construction or healthcare. There's a range of income levels that it will accommodate. Next. So I'll finish up the design portion of the presentation just by giving some overview of what makes this a sustainable project. It will be a model for decarbonizing buildings around the city. We're going fully electric with new systems. We'll be aiming for LEED Gold, and even at this early stage, we're integrating sustainable features like solar panels, energy-efficient mechanical systems. And the decarbonizing also extends to the landscape, because those mature trees that we're preserving, the city estimates that each one absorbs over 50 pounds of CO2 each year, and we're planting 60 more of them. So the landscape itself is a form of infrastructure that supports air quality, biodiversity, pollinators, and resiliency.
Good evening. Y'all still with us? So again, my name is Sandra Lobo from Northwest Bronx Community Clergy Coalition, and I'm excited to share 2 slides that really speak to the community benefits of the project. So similar to previous projects, there was concern around community benefits, but very different from the previous project is that the community benefits are woven into the project in a very intentional way, not just through community space, but really thinking about the users and the residents and how they can access the space. I'm proud to announce that Northwest Bronx, as many of you know, did a negotiation with 8th Regiment partners and secured community ownership in the project that will include 2 99-year lease condos. Condos does not mean luxury. Condos means ownership, so to be clarify that. So 100,000 square feet will be for light manufacturing, and that is intended to be to prioritize Bronx-based businesses that have already been displaced from the Bronx or those that are at risk of being displaced. It also includes 25,000 square feet of a community hub that is going to be used for workforce development, worker co-op development, and business incubation. And we are working with a set of partners to assess what are the right workforce development programs that are really needed, not just in Kingsbridge, but in the Bronx as a whole. We also negotiated community governance through a community advisory council, and we'll talk more about that. I know there's some questions about that, but there was an agreement to have a community advisory council that will help shape the tenant mix, that will give us advice around programming and think about the public use, and also a community fund that will invest in community ownership initiatives. And these are really critical because the community advisory council in particular will be figured out through a community benefits agreement that will be figured out this summer with a larger group of stakeholders. And so wanted to highlight this as a place to start because previous projects did not have critical components around community ownership. And we heard from community through the EDC vision document that was a very, very critical piece that you wanted to see. The second piece here really speaks to the economic opportunities that this project will bring that includes family-sustaining jobs that we have talked about throughout the last several years. So the project is projected to provide over 600 full-time jobs. There's a commitment to project labor agreement, so partnering with the building trades fully for the build-out, the construction of the Kingsbridge Armory. There's a commitment to work with 32BJ for the service workers in the Armory and in the residential, and supporting working with local labor 79 in the residential. There will be lots of exploration around the right kinds of youth workforce development, training programs, and apprenticeships. We're in conversation with lots of different folks from local community colleges to training facilities and nonprofits around that. And so there's these spaces here are really critical to hear from you about what that can look like. And then we have some important community hiring and MWBE goals that are not only named by the city as requirements, but we hope to go beyond those numbers. Next slide. And then this is something that has also been named over and over again as how do we ensure that we don't just have a vibrant space inside, but it really is accessible to people in the community, young people in the community, residents, workers, other folks, right? So part of the planning of the programming is around providing community accessible programming. So that includes for seniors, that includes for young people with like sports, cultural events, live performance venues. In the visioning sessions, we heard from local colleges and high schools that they have to go downtown for graduations, right? This will be a place that is accessible to these institutions to stay right here in the Bronx, in their borough, to make those celebrations. There's also programming around esports and training around tech-based programming. And then already named, we talked about up to 500 units of affordable housing using ELA, which is the deepest affordable subsidy program that HPD has. And then, of course, with the approval of HPD, there is approximately 20,000 square feet that is designed within the Phase 2 housing portion to include affordable commercial space for any businesses in the area that are at risk or really feeling challenged by their rents and their leases.
So with that, we just want to thank you so much for being here and hand it back over to Jutan.
All right, thank you to the applicant team. Give me 1 second. So we are going to now move into the public hearing portion. We're going to start with any elected officials or elected official representatives that want to speak. If I see Ben Ratner is here from Councilmember Sanchez's office. Yeah. Just checking.
Thank you. My name is Ben Ratner, Deputy Chief of Staff for Councilmember Sanchez. I'll be testifying on her behalf tonight. Borough President Gibson, the Kingsbridge Armory represents a once-in-a-generation opportunity to deliver equitable economic development to the Bronx. For decades, this iconic structure has sat vacant, and for decades, our communities have organized for an armory that reflects their deepest aspirations. The council member knows this firsthand. She grew up in the shadow of the Kingsbridge Armory and has long believed that it mirrors the incredible potential of our community. There is no question the proposal before you today is the closest we have been to turning that vision into reality. And yet, there is still much more to be done. We must ensure that any redevelopment effort is equitable, aligned with local needs, and accountable to community. That will be the focus of our testimony tonight. 1, anti-displacement strategies. This project could bring significant economic benefits to the surrounding neighborhood and to the entire borough. But with large-scale redevelopment comes risk. Rising property values can threaten local renters and small businesses who do not own their commercial spaces. To that end, the city and development team must identify concrete strategies that will protect against displacement and allow our residents and businesses to share in the wealth the project generates. 2, environmental justice. The Bronx already suffers from some of the highest asthma rates in the city and is at risk for high heat vulnerability. And so it is concerning that the draft environmental impact statement identified air quality as a significant adverse impact at 2 key intersections. We therefore urge the city and development team to specify what measures they will take to minimize impacts on air quality and, more broadly, to continue pursuing renewable energy, increased green space and tree canopy, and other climate solutions. 3, transportation. The draft EIS also identified potential impacts on traffic and nearby public transit, particularly during peak hours when there is an evening event. We encourage the city and development team to work with the MTA to identify specific improvements at the Kingsbridge Road stations for the 4, B, and D trains and upgrades to bus service on nearby lines during peak hours. 4, housing. Public land offers a precious opportunity to build deeply affordable housing. Because our community and the Bronx as a whole faces a dire housing crisis, we must maximize this opportunity. We have 3 recommendations. Allow the full 500 units proposed in the Phase 2 rezoning actions. Ensure these new homes are deeply affordable and that income restrictions are aligned as closely as possible with local incomes, and include family-sized units to meet the need for this type of housing in the Bronx. 5, community oversight. Finally, I want to emphasize that this project must remain community-driven. We have already achieved so much. First, through community engagement. The Together for Kingsbridge Vision Plan, as mentioned, was the culmination of a planning process that reached more than 4,000 Bronxites. Second, through community ownership. Last month, we announced a historic agreement between 8th Regiment Partners and the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition that will embed community ownership into the project for years to come. But there is a third critical piece that we still must codify: community oversight. To ensure this project delivers on its promises and is responsive to community over the long term, we must establish and support an oversight body that includes a broad range of local stakeholders. This will only strengthen the project and has the potential to make the Kingsbridge Armory a national model for equitable economic development. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ben, and Councilmember Sanchez's team. I'll next invite up Maximo Javier from Congressman Espaillat's office.
Good evening. Thank you, Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, for gathering us today. Thank you all on the dais. Just very briefly, unfortunately, Congressman Adriano Espaillat could not be here today. He's voting in Washington, D.C. for the good of all of us. Very briefly also, just to state that Congressman supports the Kingsbridge Armory redevelopment applications for the ULURP process, as he detailed in a written testimony he submitted prior to tonight's meeting. And he would like to thank all the elected officials that have also contributed in making this a fruition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony, and the Congressman. I'll next invite up State Senator Robert Jackson. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm State Senator Robert Jackson. I represent the 31st Senatorial District, which includes 2/3 of Manhattan, Washington Heights, Inwood, and Marble Hill, and 1/3 in the Northwest Bronx, including Kingsbridge Armory. And I've been on board about a year and a half, but these are my remarks, and I try to participate in everything that is going forward so this project can finally move forward. So good evening. The Kingsbridge Armory is not just a building. It's a monument to what was withheld and to what is still possible. For too long, it stood as a hollow promise, grand in scale, yet empty in purpose. While the communities that built this borough were left without disinvestment, displacement, decisions made without the community. Let me be clear. Development without community is displacement. We've seen it before, where public land becomes private profit and local families are left behind with broken promises and rising rents. But today, the Bronx is charting a different course because community power is symbolic to strategic. And what's happening here is a blueprint, not just for what we build, but how we build it and who's it for. And I want to thank Borough President Vanessa Gibson for not only calling this hearing, but for ensuring this process is public, participatory, and grounded in justice. I also want to recognize the elected officials of the city agencies and community partners who have worked to bring this vision forward, with a commitment to centering people, not just capital. And I especially lift up the Northwest Bronx Community Clergy Coalition. NWBCC has been here from the beginning, organizing, listening, and refusing to settle for anything less than real community power. And their leadership is exactly what's needed to ensure the redevelopment delivers what the Bronx has long deserved: real justice, real investment, and real results. This project must be done without another missed opportunity. Public land demands public accountability, and the community groups must not just have a seat at the table, they build the table. And this is a defining moment. We have one chance to get it right. So let the blueprint be guided by justice. Let the foundation be community power, and let us ensure that the Bronx is not just built upon, but built with. Thank you for the opportunity to be in front of you.
Thank you, Senator.
And I will sit and listen to testimonies myself. Thank you.
I would invite any other elected officials or representatives that want to speak this time. Recognizing that State Senator Gustavo Rivera is joined us with us tonight. So welcome. He's in the back, yep. All right, so we're going to move to the public testimony. And so how we're going to do this is we're going to extend it to 3 minutes. And I'm going to call up 3 people to please join at the table. And then we'll take turns 1, 2, 3. So the first 3 speakers are Tafader from the Local 79. And apologies for any names ahead of time. Nosa Barrett and Edgar Ramos. If the 3 of you want to come up. And the next 3 speakers after them, just so you can mentally prepare, will be Elizabeth Ortega Bailey, Dr. Gary Alfheim, and Dr. Shaquan Hoke. So it will be 3 minutes. We'll wait just a second.
Start. I'm going to be the one who keeps the time. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And that's what the bell is.
I'll play by the rules.
All right. Tafada, whenever you're ready, please.
So I actually wanted to speak to the crowd. I mean, there's a lot of construction workers here. I see laborers, electricians, painters, Local 7 out here, lots of trades. You know, if you come from communities in the Bronx, there's a lot of communities that are trapped in cycles of hardship and poverty and pain and evictions, things that are outside of our control. And what union construction jobs are able to offer is a way out of a lot of these cycles through having high-paying jobs with training to be able to work with your hands, use a skill to build a life for yourself. And for a lot of people, it's made a lot of difference. For myself, I came from hard beginnings, and I ended up becoming a homeowner at the age of 25, moved my family into a home, and I wouldn't have these opportunities without the opportunity that my union gave to me, which is why it's so important to understand that community benefits and project labor agreements are 2 sides of the same coin. When we come to an agreement on projects such as this proposal, it puts our communities to work, building right here in our neighborhoods, not down below 59th Street, building skyscrapers, you know, somewhere we don't live, right here in our own neighborhoods, creating opportunities for jobs that will help us pull our families out of poverty, out of hardship, and put ourselves on the road to success. So it's so important that we come out here and advocate for projects like these, because I see a lot of my brothers from Local 79 sitting out here. Each one has a story about how the union changed their lives. But the unions can't do that if we're not building, if we're not generating economic opportunities. So I want to thank all the partners involved who are sitting up here for creating these opportunities. And just keep in mind that, you know, community ownership is so important, creating these jobs is so important, but we're creating an example that's going to leave a legacy for the future of the Bronx and the future of development in the Bronx, the future of economic power in the Bronx. We got to make sure that the stamp of people power is on all of that, past, present, and future. Thank you, everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edgar Ramos. I'm also a tradesman. I'm a Local 3 electrician. I'm glad to see a project labor agreement was brought to for this project. And the fact that it's the Building Trades PLA, hopefully they can enforce local hires. That's something that a lot of companies come and they bring people from out of state, out of town. You see all types of plates, and you don't see local residents actually doing the work. I've been on projects where project labor agreements specified that it had to be local hires. I worked on the Cross Bronx. I worked on a lot of projects that specified you had to be a resident of that borough in order to work on that project. So we're hoping to see more of that here. We're hoping to maybe sign a project labor agreement or some type of building trade with the apartment part of it also. But for right now, the Armory is, where we're at right now. So hopefully, we'll see a lot of the community come together, work together, and be together to make this project move forward. I kind of really like the way you guys are putting it as a tapestry, right? Many pieces being put together, different parts of the community, different parts of the city coming together to make one entity that hopefully works for everybody. So hopefully that'll happen, and we thank you for coming to this project. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicosa Barrett. I'm a Local 1 plumber. Before that, I'm a 44-year resident of this neighborhood, and I feel like this armory has been closed for more than half of my life. So the fact that we are sitting here discussing the construction of the armory is a really big thing. And as my brothers here said, it's even more amazing that it's a PLA. It's being done under a PLA. I would really like, as Edgar said, I'm going to second him, the residential portion of the armory to be under a PLA as well. And my question to you guys is why not? I know it has been said that the laborers are good and the laborers will be on that job, but you have a plumber here, you have an electrician, you have a laborer, there's painters out there, so what about the other building trades of New York City? But thank you for all the hard work you've done in getting the armory up and running.
All right, thank you. You can go back to your seats. And so the next three will be, again, Elizabeth Ortega-Bailey, Dr. Gary, Dr. Gary Alfheim, and Dr. Shaquan Hoke. The next three speakers after that will be Chris Dona, Brenda Irizarry, and Yvette Hiraido.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm really loud, sorry. My name is Elizabeth Ortega-Bailey. I'm a lifelong resident of the Bronx. I grew up here, I went to school here, I got married here, and now I am raising my 6-year-old son here. I just want to share something that he proudly says all the time. He always says that he's half Puerto Rican, half Fordham, which is hilarious, but it also to me shows that he's like a mark, like that's a real mark of what like being a New Yorker is and being from the Bronx is. Like that's who he is. Like I'm Puerto Rican and I'm Fordham. Like period, stop, go no further. And so more than anything, I want that to be true for my son forever. I want that to stay with him forever. And I want him to be able to live in the Bronx as an adult, to have a good job that builds wealth in his own community, and to one day raise his own family here. That's why this project means so much to me. I've been fighting for the redevelopment of the Kingsbridge Armory for over 20 years. I was heavily involved in the last project, and I'm heavily involved now. And we finally have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to get it right. I want to start off by saying, thank you. I truly appreciate the commitment to the community ownership part so far and the equity that's been already included in the plan. That foundation actually matters about the next moving steps. It is a sign that our voices can be heard and have been heard, and the process that is being shaped by the people who live here. And as we move forward, we have a chance to take it even further. We need to make sure this development is deeply connected to jobs, housing, and long-term stability in the Bronx. First, it starts with local procurement, and not just as a buzzword, but as a serious commitment. When we hire local trades and contract with Bronx-based businesses and cooperatives, we're not just checking boxes, we're actually setting off a ripple effect for not only jobs inside the Armory, but creating a plethora of jobs around the Armory and for the Bronx as a whole. Local procurement means more Bronx residents get hired, more small businesses get contracts, more young people see a future for themselves right here. And that's the kind of economic activity that keeps wealth in our communities and supports the very family who have kept this borough going. But jobs alone aren't enough. We also need housing that reflects how we live. Studio and one-bedroom apartments just don't meet the needs of multi-generational Bronx family, which is what the Bronx is. We have generations and generations of family who live together, and we want them to be able to maintain living together. And to protect the people from being pushed out as well. And we also don't want to forget about affordable commercial space. For street vendors and for small business owners, they should also have a future in this Armory, not just be pushed to the side. This project can be more than a building. It can actually be a real model, a place where jobs, housing, and ownership work together to create real lasting opportunities. I want to make sure that this project allows families like mine to stay, grow, and thrive in the Bronx for generations.
Yeah, thank you.
How do you like this? Okay. I like your idea. Hi, everyone. Hi. Hello. I think this is a great opportunity to have this forum, so I think it's great that you're doing this. And I also am here to say that there's good reason to be skeptic. And I think I'm really here to be part of the solution. My name is Dr. Gary Altheim. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm the founder of Growth and Development Services. Growth and Development Services, GDS, started in the South Bronx. We did a partnership with Wedco, and we took youth away to sleepaway camp, and we offer free mental health counseling, youth leadership development, and now we do intergenerational programs. We unfortunately were wrongfully evicted from the Armory. And I am purposely being vague when I say the Armory, because I'm talking about the New York City Fort Washington Armory, where we built out raw space in 2002. From the first day that I walked into the building, the founder told me that we don't want these kinds of kids in the building. I'm here today speaking on behalf of the hundreds and hundreds of youth. Mr. State Senator Jackson, you're aware of what happened to Growth and Development Services. Our free mental health counseling services was wrongfully evicted from the New York City Fort Washington Armory. This is a cautionary tale. It's a cautionary tale, and again, we want to be part of the solution. GDS is homeless now, and the same players that are involved in this Armory are involved in the New York City Fort Washington Armory. The youth we work with were not being allowed into the college readiness. There are bar mitzvahs there. It's a venue rental. It's a privatization of a public space. We have tried nicely for over 15 years. And people are burnt out. People are tired. And there's only a couple of us left. But in honor of all the people that have spoken up at Manhattan Community Board 12,
I want to just read to you this petition for change that now has 831 signatures, and GDS is homeless. We have a ratio of 456 to 1. 456 students to 1 mental health professional in the schools. And we were offering free mental health services, and all the public officials in Community Board 12 have turned a blind eye to this. I'm here to help. And again, I'm here to be part of the solution, but we're tired. In 2019, GDS was wrongfully evicted from the Armory. We uncovered that the building and its true ownership was a city-owned building. The space was supposed to provide crucial housing, supportive services, and safe havens. Despite promises from public officials, some that are here, including Mark Levine, the Mayor's Office, Catherine Diaz, nothing has happened. I will finish my time, 3 minutes. This is our space. They told us we could bid on it. I was locked out of my own office, and more importantly, the youth and community are. We're asking for your help, too. Thank you very much for listening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Shaquan Hope. First of all, I would like to thank you for the space and opportunity to be able to speak. I'm an employment engagement specialist at Moshulu Montefiore Community Center. I have lived in the Bronx community for over 10 years and have raised 5 children here, some of which still reside here today in the Bronx. I've always been an advocate for my community, and I understand that the more needed people that need to be served is the underserved, and I was once one of those in the number. I advocate for the people in my community, especially for the homeless population and their families. I'm here today because the Kingsbridge Armory project presents a once-in-a-generation opportunity to create a development that truly reflects our community's priorities and vision. Although the community has already made important contributions with housing and economic development, we are not done yet. I urge the city and developers to ensure that there are workforce development opportunities for the youth, specifically aged 18 to 24. We are in need of free training in the green and construction industry, paid internships, and employment opportunities. Partnerships with community-based organizations such as Moshulu Montefiore Community Center would be a great add. Universities, unions, construction companies, and the like would also be great to add so that we can make sure that this project it comes through and is successful. This will assist in creating local employment opportunities for Kingsbridge Armory construction and beyond. So we don't want to just look at us building the Armory, but what happens after the Armory is built. Supporting this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity will create economic growth in the Kingsbridge community and throughout the Bronx. And speaking as an employment specialist and developing relationships with businesses. And by the by, I am looking to develop relationships with unions because this is the start of how we get the free opportunities to our youth. As a matter of fact, Moshulu Montefiore Community Center has a cohort going on right now with youth age 18 and up that are looking to complete their training in August. And MMCC will also host a career and resource fair on August the 21st. It's open to the Bronx community. So anyone seeking employment and training, they can also get exposed to wraparound services. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to seeing the progress ahead.
Thank you. The next three speakers are Chris Dona, Brenda Irizarry, and Yvette Hirado. Just 1 second till everyone gets up. The three speakers after that are John Hilton, Elizabeth Thompson, and Misael Campos.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Chris Donato. I'm a lifetime Bronx resident and 29-year member of Local Union Number 3. As a Bronx resident who grew up on Kingsbridge Avenue and now resides on Irwin Avenue, I believe it would be great to have access to shows and concerts right here in our neighborhood. It's exciting to imagine not having to travel to enjoy live entertainment. This is in walking distance for me. Bringing these events closer to home would be truly amazing. Many projects in the past have started with great energy and promise, but unfortunately they often stalled and fell through. As a union member and a proud Bronx resident, I sincerely hope we can secure this opportunity, complete the project, and help bring much needed revenue, culture, and vitality back to the Bronx. I would also like to emphasize the importance of including the residential housing project in a building trades PLA. It was mentioned that the housing project will not be under a project labor agreement. How can we work towards including it into a building trades PLA? And let's work together to make this happen. This entire project should be done with building trades union labor. Recently, a large project in my neighborhood was awarded to a non-union contractor. The work has already begun, and they already broken a water main, causing significant issues that remain unresolved. Riverdale buildings lost water for days, businesses were flooded, and my own water pressure still isn't back to normal. But at least the brown water stopped. The damage was extensive. Also, now a lane, while they fix it, is down, so traffic's a nightmare. The cheaper cost of non-union work is never safer, never better, or even cheaper in the end. You often get what you pay for. In the long run, it ends up costing more and isn't beneficial for anyone. I am fully in favor of this project and strongly support building trades union labor. Let's push for a building trades PLA, building trades unions all around. Thank you for hearing me.
Good evening. My name is Brenda Irizarry. I live in the Norwood section of the Bronx since 1982. I am a member of the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition. At this time, the developer has committed to community ownership, co-governance, family-sustaining jobs, and support for small businesses. However, this project needs to go further. First and foremost, affordable programming to local residents of all ages, as well as intergenerational programs. In addition, the need for accessible health and wellness facilities. Offer street vendors affordable space in the Armory. Regarding housing, I am appealing to the developer to set aside a number of apartments for Community Board 7 residents. Also, there should be more family-size apartments of 2 and 3 bedrooms. Finally, a community benefits agreement that includes local hiring, construction contracts with minority and/or women-owned businesses in the Bronx. Also, a small percentage of the annual revenue from the Armory be reinvested in the Bronx. Thus, the Armory represents a rare opportunity for the developer and the community together to bring economic and social justice to the Bronx for generations to come. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yvette Geraldo, and I'm really here to really speak about, because they're talking about all the parking and everything, that's another concern, which just sounds like a great idea, but what about the parking that's happening now that we don't even have enough parking, like people that's going to church on Sundays? We're trying to put that part of the development plan that it's been like a parking war lately, and it's just like the senseless killing that's happening now for parking. So when this becomes a reality, when we actually will see it, because right now it's in black and white. But what happens when a point comes, when it comes to the time for the parking? Because a lot of people are having problems right now, can't even park their car. There's a fight against for parking. It's like just put it in, like at least for the Sundays. It's not only for Sundays for the churches, but it's just like for everyone, because it just right now is getting ridiculous. So if you saying we're gonna have parking and we're gonna have this and we're gonna have that, what about now that we having this problem? How are we gonna implement that in part of this plan? Because we're talking about something, okay, this is great. We're looking at housing and all this, but really let's look at reality now, what's in the neighborhood, what are we doing now here at this time? And I just wanted to just put that out there, that is not only with the churches and everything, but I think that they should have at least that Sunday for the churchgoers, then starting, having a pastor have to park a car like 2, 3 blocks or 4 blocks when his church is right here. And that's not only for the church, but it's for the neighborhood. And it just is getting out of hand. It's something that needs to get addressed. If we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this right, and we're gonna do it accordingly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So John Hilton, Elizabeth Thompson, and Misael Campos, if the three of you want to join. The next 3 speakers after them will be Sarah Pennenberg, Nicole Manning, and Sarent, as the last name is Sarent.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Misael Campos. I am an associate pastor at New Life Outreach International Church and a proud member of the Coalition of Churches here in the Bronx. I'm also a resident over here in the Bronx, where I am very excited about this beautiful and ambitious project that is going to be undertaken. My concern, just like my sister Yvette here was speaking earlier, is on the parking when and while they are developing this area. Our church specifically has and is and does and continues to make a wonderful contribution to the community here in Kingsbridge in the Bronx. We're located right there on Morris Avenue and 196th Street. And we provide services for the homeless. We take people who are drug addicted and found out in the streets. We send them to drug rehabilitation programs in Virginia. Just last weekend, we had over 160 volunteers volunteer to clean up the park in St. James, the area around the Oval. We provide many valuable community services for this area. So we love the Bronx. We love this area. We love New York, and we're excited. We work hard to try to lift it to another level. However, we cannot accomplish this if while they're developing this project, there's not an allocated area where we can park, where people, the elderly that come to our church, are able to park, and it would put them in danger, and it puts the other cars and other drivers in danger if people start all of a sudden double parking on the side of the streets. It affects emergency medical services, the fire department, and everyone else in the community. So I respectfully urge the Office of the Bronx Borough President, Ms. Vanessa Gibson, to please, please, please protect our right to gather by ensuring we have free and accessible parking so that we can continue to make a contribution here to the Bronx. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
My name is Elizabeth Thompson. I go as Miss Liz. I've been in this area 46 years. I had 2 children. One got killed right in front of the, well, it used to be the Social Security place. But the thing is, I've been a community activist for over 40 years at Kingsbridge Heights. And I see how the areas have deteriorated. And the thing is, we want to try to bring it back together. And bringing it back together means unity with everybody. And the thing is, parking is one, but the thing is us staying together and make sure that we follow the rules and regulations. If we say we're going to do something, do it. You're going to have me as an enemy, I'm telling you right now. I don't know how, with God's help, I will be on your back to make sure that you do it correctly. The thing is, love thy neighbor, and that's at Kingsbridge and Northwest Bronx. We have done that. We become a family, and a family take care. That big building you're putting up there, it's going to cover a lot of things, and I don't know, they have to school me a little bit more about it. I really need to, because we have plenty housing, but our landlords are not letting the people get into them. So we really need to talk. And the thing is, lower income people can't get in there, like myself. I work for Health and Hospital. And I asked, can I get in there? Oh, no, you can't. I don't make that much money. I'm retired. So please help the lower income who have work. Okay? And we have never seen so many homeless people in this area. Our homeless people need help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Jill John Hilton, were you here? Okay, may have stepped out. I'll call you again at the end if you are not. The 3, again, are Sarah Pennenberg, Nicole Manning, and Serrant. Serrant is the last name. And then the 3 after that will be Sandra Guadalupe, Jorge Arias, and Fernando Cabrera. Whenever you're ready.
32? 32? Good evening. My name is Sarah Pennenberg, and I'm here representing the strong SEIU Local 32BJ. 32BJ is the largest union of property service workers in the country, representing over 175,000 members across 13 states, including tens of thousands of commercial property service workers, security officers, and residential building staff in New York, who will be hopefully working in this armory once it is built. 32BJ supports responsible developers who invest in communities where they build, and I'm happy to report that this developer of this proposed project has made that credible commitment for prevailing wage jobs for workers who will be permanently staffing the building. We estimate that this rezoning will allow for the creation of about roughly 24 jobs in property service. Good jobs like this mean prevailing wage, meaningful benefits, and a pathway to the middle class for local community members who tend to fill those positions. We need more housing, and we need housing in every neighborhood of New York to ensure that working families are not displaced by dwindling supplies and skyrocketing rents. This proposed development will include residential units. It will also include permanently income restricted for lower middle class, and also hundreds of thousands of square feet for community manufacturing, life event space, and we are excited for this possibility to be brought to this neighborhood. As the cost of living rises and working New Yorkers struggle to stay in their homes, it is more important than ever that we create affordable housing, good jobs, which uphold industry standards in this city. For this reason, 32BJ is proud to strongly support the Kingsbridge Armory rezoning. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Manning. I'm a resident of Riverdale. I've lived in the Bronx for over 20 years. I'm a public school teacher here at a high school in the Bronx. So my first concern is young people. I think we lack quote unquote third spaces, places where we can all go and don't have to spend money and won't get kicked out. I think kids need a place to go besides the library where they can just be and either do their homework or pursue their passions or hang out with their friends and work on what they work on. I think it's important we have a quiet space for them. This is a very loud neighborhood with the train going overhead all the time. So that's important to me. That's number one. Number two, I have questions, but I believe you can answer. Is that true? Can you answer questions? Okay, so secondly, regarding the housing, I believe you said they were condos, which means ownership. I heard the word ownership. No? I heard the word ownership a lot. No, they're not condos. It's just rental. Okay, then. And then thirdly, I understand the trains are not within your control, but I want to know, how will you work with the MTA? You use the word accessibility a lot. This train station is not handicap accessible. It is not accessible for families and children and people with disabilities. So I urge you to work with the MTA to make this truly more accessible and cleaner and more pleasant. It's a necessary part of this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you both. The next three speakers are Sandra Guadalupe, Jorge Arias, and Fernando Cabrera, if you want to come down. The next three speakers will be Richard Torres, Toby Buford, and Martha Bryant. Just letting everyone know we're getting close to the end of the speaker list. If anyone still wants to sign up, please go over to the table to fill out a speaker card.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Guadalupe. I've been a resident at Kingsbridge for now 17 years. And I want to say is what I wrote here. If it's okay, I'm a little nervous, bear with me. Friends, neighbors, fellow Kingsbridge residents, the community gathers to speak with one voice about a concern that impacts all. But most importantly, the most vulnerable members of the community are children. The proposed Kingsbridge Armory redevelopment is a project of immense scales while acknowledging the potential for positive change. It is also important to address the challenges, particularly regarding parking and its effect on safety and quality of life. Parking in the neighborhood is already a daily struggle. Time is spent cycling blocks, circling around, competing for scarce spaces, often forced to park far from homes. This is a serious safety concern, especially when children are walking to and from school. When children are walking and when navigating crowded streets and groceries, and after dark hours, the proposed Kingsbridge Armory project, with its anticipated increase in visitors and potential loss of parking spaces, could worsen this problem. How will this added burden impact the traffic, congestions on the streets? How will children's safety be? Crossing the roads with increased vehicle traffic, what measures will be put in place to ensure that schools are not surrounded by parking chaos? The project developers and city officials are implored to remember that the community is not merely the collection of buildings, but a living network of families, schools, and essential services. When considering the Kingsbridge Armory future, considers Imagine them navigating, the children navigating more congested streets with fewer safety crossing points. Will parents be able to drop off and pick up their children without facing gridlocks and dangerous maneuvers? We're already facing that. We're already going through it. Why go through it more? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Pastor Fernando Cabrera. I've been leading the church since 1988. We've been working in this community for a long time, but I'm not only representing our church, but also on behalf of Fort Manor Church that's been here since the 1600s. They were here before, long before the Kingsbridge Armory, and also Heavenly Vision Church, which is just a bit south of us in Jerome Avenue. We have a chronic parking problem in this area, and it was exacerbated with the bikes, the city bikes, then the extension of the sidewalks, then we had the car share, so much that unfortunately, and those of us who are from the neighborhood, right behind this building, somebody got shot and killed because of an argument regarding a parking. So it's not a small thing, it's something that we live here every single day. My proposal that I'd like to present tonight, that we keep hearing here tonight, and it was included in all the other plans in the previous redevelopment plans, which was for Sundays, where you have literally probably the smallest crowd going into the Kingsbridge Armory to have free parking for the houses of worship. And second of all, if you could mitigate the issue of parking, which I'm sure most of the community do not know, that while they're doing the construction, all the parking around the Kingsbridge Armory is going to be eliminated. And so we need to come up with creative ways to be able to have parking accessible for the people who live here. Some of them they work 2 jobs, they come here late at night, and they want to get home safely to their family and not get in a big argument. Then in light of the fact that we also have probably the most congested block in Jerome Avenue with the car washes. I'm not here to debate either side. It's just the context that we're seeing. And so I really plead with all the elected officials, with the mayor's office, with the borough president's office, if we could take that into strong consideration, because it's literally the churches that I just mentioned, and not even the other ones, we're talking about thousands of people that attend to those houses of worship that are contributing in the community, literally thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of investment and manpower in the community. Thank you so much, and thank you for all you do.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jorge Arias. I have lived in this community my entire life. 255 is Kingsbridge Road, right across the street from Pole Park. So I have seen that change tremendously, and exactly how that park has been remodeled and changed tremendously, so has my community. I have seen a lot of people lose their apartments, lose their jobs, because everything has been going up lately, and it continues to go up. And the sad part is every time when I wake up that I gotta go to work, I turn on New York 1, and I hear a 17-year-old kill this one, a 16-year-old stabbed another one. And a lot of these issues is because our youngsters growing up, and also adults, don't have a proper job where they could sustain their families. And that leads to all these crimes. So I represent District Council 9. District Council 9 gave me an opportunity to become a painter. I joined the apprenticeship program. I learned the trade, which allowed me not to be hanging out in the corner on 194 in Briggs or 194 in Valentine. So it allowed me to develop a career. And from there, I became a journey person, and I was able to earn a great salary. So I could continue every time the landlord decides that he needs to raise the 5% or 7%, I'm able to still pay the rent and stay in the community that I love, where I was raised. Therefore, I would like that not just the Kingsbridge Armory is part of the PLA, but also the residential apartments that are going to be built behind the Armory to also be part of the PLA, because that allows not only DC9, the painters, union, allied trades, but also the plumbers, the electricians, the stem fitters, all the other trades that are here as well, give an opportunity to young people from our community to get a career, earn a decent salary so they could stay here and avoid and lower our crime rates in our area. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for your testimony. Richard Torres, Toby Buford, and Martha Bryan are the last three speaker cards I have. I'll go back to a couple that I did not John Hilton, and then Sarant as the last name for the next two speakers. Again, if anyone wants to sign up, please fill out a speaker card.
First, I would like to thank the Bronx Borough President for showing a commitment to this project through listening to the people who must live here and providing the funds and power of your office to limit any harms to the Bronx. I'd also like to acknowledge the steadfast, enduring commitment of the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition. To make sure the people's voices are the loudest in the room. T.S. Eliot once said, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." While I've only lived in the Bronx for these past 2.5 years, this quote reflects my feelings about the Bronx after growing up in Westchester and living outside New York for 4 decades. From an outsider's perspective, I'd like to see the Armory as a tourist attraction for all those Bronxite families currently living in Westchester and a respite for Bronx residents. I dream of the Armory retaining its magical aura. When people walk by, they should see a wonderful, opulent castle. On the inside, I would like to see a Bronx History Museum that recognizes the Bronx accomplishments of its non-white communities so that our children can walk through and understand the past struggles that were overcome by this community and take pride in all that their ancestors have accomplished. While I understand the need for affordable housing, I am totally against the currently proposed plans for humongous apartment buildings. Besides bringing overcrowding to an already densely population, the AMI criteria doesn't line up with the incomes currently living in this area. For example, a 50% AMI for a household of 2 is over $64,000. That's nearly $20,000 over Kingsbridge and average household income. If you want to bring in outsiders, which your current criteria would certainly do, I think you should restrict the housing to the families of teachers currently working at the schools surrounding Kingsbridge. In this way, our teachers become neighbors and we bring an insightful perspective into the classroom.
So my name is Toby Buford. I've lived in this community since I was a teenager many years ago. And this, what I'm about to do, is a piece. It's a spoken word piece in giving homage and reference to the Kingsbridge Armory as well as the Bronx. And I hope you enjoy it. The Kingsbridge Armory, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get it done. 30 years you remained vacant. Life stood still for you. Yet life moved on around you. Let's get it done. For the people, with community input, therefore by the people, to influence the people, to build this Bronx community bigger, better, and to shore up economic growth for our beloved Bronx. Let's do it with union help, with anchor tenants, with love for community, to pay homage to our vets. Let's build you to last forever. The Kingsbridge Armory, let's do it.
Hi, my name is Richard Torres. I'm a Bronxite, born and raised, bred. Haven't lived anywhere else my entire 44 years of life. And I will say that I am super, super excited to hear what's going on with the Armory. Growing up on Kingsbridge Road, 3201 Bainbridge Avenue, 111 Father Sizer, and just roaming the streets as a kid, lost to drugs, alcohol, gangs, and being just, part of this community, to now hear the improvement and finally something so massive coming into our neighborhood is the most exciting news that any Bronxite, or at least in this area, can receive. So I want to first thank the Office of the Borough President, DOT, EDC. Thank you for for all your hard work and what you're doing and what you're looking to do with this historic building. But I do come with some concerns from many voices, and a lot of the voices that are still members of this community and that live in the surrounding area. As Bronx born and shared, a youth in the streets, lost to drugs, alcohol, abandonment, physical abuse, and everything else. I will tell you that this area has been a safe haven by the churches that are here today. And thank God, and to God be the glory, and to Jesus, our Lord and Savior, I'm here testifying that the churches in these communities have been a staple. You heard from someone a little while ago stating how most of these churches have been here for more than 300 years, and they've been staples to families that have been born, raised, and groomed in these, probably not a good word, but that have been developed by these neighborhoods, and I'm standing here today as one of them with a major concern as to how our churches that are already being stressed out, strained out, pushed out, priced out, bought out, and now with people gravitating and coming and just communing at any local church that they can find, we're experiencing one of the most difficult challenges today, which is parking. And I know it sounds like a broken record. I know you've heard it from several people already, but as a leader of New Life Bronx Church right around the corner, I can tell you that I stand at the doors every single Sunday, seeing the stress, the anxiety, and all of that, and everything that comes with it from our parishioners that have expressed, why can't we find parking? Why are the car washes taking over? Why are the illegal parking and the vandalisms just saturating our neighborhood? Why are the retailers parking their trucks where we can't park even for a few minutes at the meters? This is a near and dear concern to me, because as a leader and as someone that has been set free from a church that has been a staple in this community, I now fear for our parishioners. I fear for our members that they will start seeking or start getting tired of church. So help us get free parking from the developer. We're good. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you all. Thank you for your testimony. So I'm going to do one final call of John Hilton and last name Sarant. And if there's anyone else that wants to speak, no, just checking the speaker cards over there. Max, Tom, no more? Okay. Oh, you would like to speak? Yeah, come on up. If you can say your name, you can go ahead, sit down. Ready?
Okay, now it worked. Hello? Hi. I've been a resident for almost 33 years. I have seen this neighborhood change for many years. You know, I see for years they're trying to do something with this armory, which it's been an ongoing roller coaster. I do agree with some of the things with the transportation thing. I believe that we should use it for a community, for just community, put a pool, nice little pool, community pool, things for the kids, and families, and and helping people that are volunteer programs and all that. However, the second half of what I think should be in there is retail. And I always say jobs, bringing jobs into the community that we don't have. There's a lot of restaurants, a lot of things that we could put in there that we could that way we could make this community much bigger and stuff. I just saying that like a mall, like it's like a little half could be half for communities, half could be for just retail and stuff, and other various things. As for the community housing, I don't really agree with, and I think there's so many other things that we could do with that space. I have noticed that, you guys were putting it across the street from the school. I just think that we should use that for like retail stuff or something that we could, there's so many other spaces. However, I think that there is so many empty spaces in this neighborhood, abandoned houses and stuff that's not being used, that we could put those housings in. So, I mean, I do totally agree with, with that. It's just not for I think it would be a little too much to put too many things in there. So, I hope, it goes well. I hope we get this going, and I hope I want it to be an attraction for everyone that comes to the holidays, to come here, so that way they could, want to come back. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could fill out a speaker card.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to move to the finals. So first of all, thank you to everyone that spoke today, testified. Really, round of applause to you all for that. Yeah. We're going to move into the final portion, the Borough President's team's Q&A to the applicant team. So I have a few questions here. You touched on a number of these topics in the presentation, but wanted to expand on a few, as well as added some points from what we've heard from the testimony today. And also when I ask these questions, it's armory and housing. It's kind of the entirety of it, for we're talking about this. So the proposal includes rezoning to an MX district and a special permit to increase the arena capacity from 6,000 to 17,000 seats. Can you explain the rationale and need for these land use changes and how they align with both the neighborhood character and the community's longstanding vision for the armory? Additionally, what specific plans are there to mitigate traffic congestion, and pedestrian safety impacts, especially on major event days? And if you can also add in there, we've heard a number of testimony about parking in general. If you can expand on not just event days, but how mitigating parking or providing, not mitigating parking, but providing parking, or how that will work with part of the proposal. Thank you.
Sure. I'll take the question about the land use rationale first. So as I mentioned, we're seeking a zoning change to change it from the existing commercial zoning C44, which allows commercial and residential development, to a mixed use district, which allows residential, commercial, community facility, and light manufacturing use. The reason for the zoning change is to permit this very diverse, varied programming that we're proposing for the Armory. It's a huge space, and I think, as Madison said, well, one of the reasons this project is different is because of the diverse programming that responds to community needs, that ensures financial viability, and that really will make this project work. We picked that specific district because it allows the uses we need without increasing the overall floor area. For example, the residential building that's currently proposed could be built under the existing zoning. That is not being facilitated by the proposed rezoning. On your second question, which is about the coordination on transportation and other potential impacts stemming from events and on event days. We are actively working with DOT and with MTA as part of the environmental review process to identify potential issues and to propose solutions, whether that's through design, public realm improvements, the design of our open space, event management planning from our team's side, future post-ULURP, like after the approval of the project, once it's in development and operational, additional monitoring, and then just ongoing coordination and communication with DOT and MTA. And I think it's exciting. I think a lot of people may know, but the MTA is in fact planning to soon implement accessibility improvements at the Kingsbridge Road station. So we are also working to make sure we accommodate any of their space needs on the site to allow for elevators to be installed at the station, which is very exciting. And then the last question about parking, that is another thing we're actively working on, speaking to nearby institutions that have available parking, looking for additional places we could potentially put more parking to make sure that parking needs are accommodated within the nearby community. And that is just an ongoing discussion.
Thank you. So I have like 4 more questions. The next question is, you've proposed 500 affordable units across 4 AMI bands, with just over 30% being 2 and 3 bedrooms. What steps are you taking to ensure that the units will serve Bronx families, especially those most at risk of displacement? And how are you addressing the potential displacement, both residential and commercial, for the pressures within this large-scale development that they may bring to the surrounding community?
Sure, I'll take the residential question, and then I'll turn it over to Madison and Sandra to discuss displacement. But for the 500 affordable units, right now there is a 20% community preference. By the time the project is built, it will likely be 15%. That's legally mandated, but it's a minimum. That's a minimum percentage of community board members that have a preference for those units, for 75 of the units. But the development team will actively market the units to the community district and to the Bronx to make sure there's maximum successful participation in the housing lottery to ensure that the highest percentage of local and Bronx residents get that housing.
And to touch on anti-displacement strategies, it's one that we've been exploring and talking a lot about within the city, with the mayor's office, with small business services, and with the local elected officials as well, because we hear the community loud and clear that it's a priority to maintain the businesses who have been supporting the neighborhood when the Armory has been kind of decommissioned and closed out to the community. So we share that priority to continue to support and find ways to make sure that those businesses stay intact. And so we're looking at what the city already has offered to other rezonings and other neighborhoods, and kind of using that as a foundation of what we can do and how we can do more. So looking at program management, looking at capital access, looking at indirect and direct services to those small businesses, and in making sure that they know what's already available to them and how they can make best use of them. And then exploring with them as well how we can do more and build more for this community and what fits for this community, because obviously not all communities are alike. And so finding something that is tailored to their needs. And so it's a issue that we're actively exploring, and we'll hope to come back to this group and in the coming months and years as we learn more of how to make it a priority and what tools we're going to deploy here.
Really quickly, I just want to add that we did say during the presentation, but underscore that in the residential building on the ground floor, there's a commitment to providing below market retail spaces, and that's going to be done in collaboration with local stakeholders.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that a lot of the experiences that local businesses are having, the way to really address that is through legislation, and we're organizing to change legislation to provide more protections for small businesses. But what I will name is that the 8th Regiment Partners has been really open to partnering and exploring the ways in which we can do our best to protect local businesses. So as Lauren mentioned, it's about prioritizing at-risk businesses to get priority in the below market, so affordable retail and the housing side. We're also working with the Merchant Association to figure out, like, how do we collectivize them so that they can grow their power, so that they can, help to move legislation or move more resources and investment along the corridor. You likely already noticed there's a lot more activation happening along the corridor, and we'll continue to work together to make that happen.
Thank you. And I think tying into that, where you were going with the labor agreements and labor portion. So you've stated that the project can generate over 600 permanent jobs and a range of workforce training opportunities. We've heard quite a bit of testimony today from union representation who are looking for a PLA, or project labor agreement. Can you explain what commitments for how many of these will be full-time, unionized, and available to specifically Bronx residents as much as you can? Also, will you commit to enforceable goals around local hiring, MWBE participation, and youth apprenticeships? And if so, how will these be formalized?
Sure. So on the job number, that is an estimate right now. It's a number that is really evolving as we are continuing to build out the program and the tenants for the space. We believe it will be well over 600, but the breakdown between full-time and part-time is still something we don't have finalized. I think with regard to MWBE participation and local hiring, Madison can speak to that quickly.
Just to quickly touch upon it, because I do know that that's something that's been brought up a couple of times and we don't have our presentation. But in our pre-development agreement with the developer, it establishes a target of 35% of participation by WMBEs, and community hiring is a requirement in the lease agreement as well. So it will ensure that members who will come from economically disadvantaged regions will have an opportunity to be a part of the job pipeline, to be a part of how this armory is built and how it gets sustained. And so there will be there's legislation that was already passed by the city council and signed by the mayor that requires annual reporting as well, to ensure that best efforts are being made by the development team and making sure that those targets are being reached. But those are already a part of our pre-development agreement and our lease agreement before the keys get handed over. So we share that concern and we share that priority as well.
The presentation noted community space, cultural venues, and a community advisory council. How will you guarantee that these spaces remain affordable and accessible to the Bronx residents, not just private partners or outside institutions? And what authority will the advisory council have over making decisions such as tenant mix, program decisions, and long-term public access? Essentially, what teeth will the Community Advisory Council actually have, and what roles will they actually play in decision-making or in the process?
Okay, thanks. So the accessibility for local cultural institutions and community residents is built into, first of all, the community ownership that Sandra spoke to. So there's 25,000 square feet of community space. There's 100,000 square feet of manufacturing space that'll be decided with Community Ownership Council. The Community Council and the actual bylaws of that Community Council will be worked out in conjunction with the council member, and given the feedback that we're hearing, that's the point of hearing this and understanding that that's really important to all the stakeholders as we develop the CBA, and that'll be finalized before the council phase of this ULERT process. The other piece of the question, so about accountability and teeth, Madison mentioned a little bit the lease terms. So the city has the ability to claw back certain provisions, or there's requirements built into the lease with the 8th Regiment Armory team that make requirements and that hold the team accountable to the commitments that we're making. They're also going to have a CBA, as we've mentioned many times, to hold the team and the city accountable to the commitments that we're making. So the cadence and the specific powers of the community council will be decided as we go. It's an iterative process, and we're working on that right now.
Yeah, I think Lauren said most of it. What I will just iterate is the 8th Regiment partners negotiated with Northwest Bronx that there would be a community council You all might remember that in the previous development project, we had a legally binding community benefits agreement that was signed by 26 institutions. So while there is an agreement to a community advisory council, we did not want to be one organization signing the community council. We wanted it to be more than 26 institutions. So the public hearings is the space where we're listening to what the community wants, and we're going to use those institutions to be a part of the community benefits agreement process. So it will still be a legally binding community benefits agreement that will be signed by the members of a community council. We have over 40 organizations in the neighborhood that will be a part of that process, and all of that will be signed before the ultimate vote in the city council.
Thank you. And that actually was kind of my last question, was about the community benefits agreement, which I don't need to directly ask because I think you literally just answered it. So that was the last question that I had for this. Let me just check. Okay. Final opportunity for any testimony? Okay. As there are no additional speakers, this concludes the public testimony portion of Bronx Borough President's public hearing at 7:08 p.m. For anyone that wishes to submit written testimony, please submit it to publictestimony@bronxbp.nyc.gov. That information is also on our website. Written testimony will always be accepted, but only testimony received by tomorrow, Friday, July 18th, will be considered for the Borough President's recommendation. Before we go, I want to recognize and thank the team that worked to ensure this public hearing went smoothly, including Gio Chaco, Robert Maraglia, the Planning and Development team, BronxNet, the entire KIPP Academy team for hosting, and our 2 Spanish translators, Hillary Mercedes and Maria Alvarez on the left, or on the side, who have worked tirelessly translating everything that we've said tonight. So thank you. Yes. I'll just keep talking, so they have to keep translating this portion as well. Anyway, so I want to thank you all again for your participation in this public hearing, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thank you all.